What's up, everybody? Brett here, and we are back. Total War Warhammer 2. Doing some awesome 2v2s on small funds here on the multiplayer. And our map is going to be the Star of Avalorn. It's an interesting map. It has a lot of tactical variance, especially when you're taking a faction that requires a lot of artillery and needs lots of line of sight. And we're going to see how our Dawi here fare in this upcoming battle. Okay, the game ended up being my side of the battlefield. Let's slow-mo it real quick. We went with the Dwarves, and we are led by a standard Dwarf Lord, stripped down completely, not even stand your ground, which is an ability I value highly. So he's just, I think he's 1,000 gold in this form, and no other hero units, which is something I will pretty much only ever do in a small funds battle. Our front line is made up of 2 units of Dwarf Warriors, very sturdy, shielded, good for their cost, very excellent low tier infantry, and then miners out on the wings to try and catch any advancing cavalry or any sneaky tactics from our enemies here. 1 unit of miners with blasting charges, and they're in the back. They're going to fill whatever gap we need them to, and hopefully defend our all-important artillery here. So I wanted to do something different. Instead of like spamming out rangers or quarrelers or something like that, I decided to go with 3 units of the bolt throwers. And you'll see here their giant ballista. 340 range is excellent. It's just great range for an artillery piece, especially one that's only 550 gold, which is insane. They do excellent damage versus large targets. They, of course, have armor piercing, and they've received some buffs recently. But they're going to outrange anything that's on the high elf side of the field, and that's, of course, one of our opponents. Very good at focusing down cavalry as well, or large targets also. And then to kind of back them up, 2 units of grudge throwers, which on these unit model sizes, they're going to get a lot of kills. We have, like I said, 2 units of them, and I'm going to be trying to spread out and keep my targets diverse to try and maximize the amount of damage that I'm able to do. My ally here ended up switching his build quite a bit during the course of the building of his army. Kind of shocked to see 2 Grail relics. I don't blame him for taking 1. They have pretty decent buffs. Of course, they also have the physical resistance, 20% frenzy, which is kind of ridiculous because it doesn't do very much damage. But Icon of Devotion is what you bring them for. Plus 12 leadership and immune to psychology. So that is a nice buff that's going to give all of our frontliners those particular buffs. He took some peasant mobs to kind of reinforce my Dawi. I like that choice a lot. Muck up the opponents, take arrows to the face. That's what they're good for. And then you'll see here we have the Holy Wardens of La Maison Tal, and these are the Battle Pilgrims. They do fire and magic damage. Going to be very good potentially against the undead on the other side of the battlefield, the vampire counts. That fire damage especially being very relevant. And the Beast Slayers of Bastion, the Footsquire Regiment of Renown, but these guys are Halberd variant, of course rank 9, very strong, immune to psychology, and yeah, charge defense against large and anti-large. They'll be very good at screening out cavalry, and they're also just great in melee. You can just throw them in against any opponent. Their leadership is so high at this point that they're nearly an unbreakable unit. I love those guys. And then 2 units of men-at-arms, just the standard variant. No shields, just the sword. They're going to be great at trading with skeletons or even high elf spearmen. They're going to trade effectively. Actually, are there 3 of them? Are there 3? Yes, there are 3. Okay, very good. And then, of course, our opponent took a caster. I would highly recommend that. What spells? I wasn't able to see during the battle too many of the spells, but Wind Blast is great. Very good at taking out groups of archers or spearmen on the high elf side, as well as skeletons. Does great damage against low armored targets, and that are tightly packed in their nice little neat formations, especially on this unit size that we're playing on. And they also took Harmonic Convergence. So it's a buff, 26 melee attack, 27 melee defense, and you can overcast that. I think it gives armor on top of that. So it's a really good ability. If you have a unit that's tanking in the front line, you give it that and they'll hold on forever. And then last but not least, certainly, King Lewin Lincor, with almost all of his abilities, he's quite expensive whenever you take the Lion-Hearted. Only on his Barded Warsteed, which gives him decent armor and maneuverability on the battlefield, which is great. He also has, of course, 20% melee, physical resistance rather, thanks to some of his abilities. The Lady is Champion, giving him regen, which is an extremely valuable ability. in 2v2 small funds, because that means over the course of a long battle he's going to take a lot of damage, and he'll generally be the last man standing if you're able to protect him. He also, let's see, he also has the icon of devotion. He's under the influence of that, but let's see, what are his abilities? The beloved son of Bretonia. So it's a constant around self, affects allies in range, and unless his hit points are greater than 50%, this is procced. Plus 8 melee attack, plus 8% charge bonus, plus 12% weapon damage, and immune to psychology. A great little buff. Foe Seeker, as well as Stand Your Ground and the Sword of Corone, which is a super valuable pick. Very similar to what the Vampire Counts player took. It's a debuff and an AoE. It lowers melee attack and melee defense, I do believe. No, melee defense and armor. Okay, so very similar to, and we're going to move over here to the other side of the battlefield. They went ahead and took the brand new, not brand new at this point, but still very new, the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, who has a ton of his abilities. Let's try and look at some of the cooler ones. Honor or Death, unique to this Blood Dragon Vampire Lord bloodline, plus 8% leadership and 11 damage resistance. That's just a static ward save as long as they're in melee. That's a very cool ability. Invocation of the Heck probably being the most important spell. Look at this dude. What are you doing, buddy? You're my shot. Get out of here. Okay. Also, Helm of Discord. So that's what I was comparing King Lewin Linkor's ability to. Minus 27 melee defense, minus 26 melee attack. I honestly think this weapon, or this, it is actually a weapon. That's unique. I mean, it's a helmet. It's a helmet weapon. I think it's overtuned. I think it needs a longer cooldown, maybe 120 seconds. It single-handedly can win you frontline engagements, this one item, and it's kind of sick. Heart Piercing to imbue him with Sunder Armor and give him even more armor-piercing damage on top of that, as well as a great charge bonus. And Undeath Resurgent, buffing the leadership as well as the melee defense of the units around them. Took some Fellbats to try and help perhaps shut down any kind of Dwarven ranged play. A good choice. Crypt Ghouls supporting Skeleton Warriors and Skeleton Spearmen. Not a bad choice. Spearmen would be very useful if there were a lot of cavalry on the field, which unfortunately for them there are not. And Blood Knights are also excellent at dealing with cavalry, but we have no large targets. Aside from King Lewin, we are devoid of large targets, so the Blood Knights are going to miss out on some of that effectiveness from their anti-large bonuses, but they do have Frenzy. They are heavily armored. They can be healed and resurrected by Invocation of the Heck, so they're never a bad choice. And they're very expensive for a small funds battle, but I think they're going to be quite effective here at taking down the poor Dawi. Great Eagle on the other side of the battlefield, another unit you don't get to see very often. Had we gone heavy on our ranged, or had our Bretonian ally went with some archer units, this could have been a very suspect pick, but ended up being able to get in there this battle and do some work. Princess, very cheap. I love this choice. Ended up taking some of the abilities, perhaps not necessary. Loose being one of them, Foe Seeker being another, as well as Volley of High Arrows, which is essentially a kind of Arrow of Kurnos type effect. Just like a Fire and Forget armor-piercing missile. It's very good, but a stripped-down Princess is a nice mobile, almost an artillery platform that near the end of the battle when things are worn down, she can get into melee and do some decent work there as well. Alright, a front line of spearmen who have been taking a bit of a beating from my artillery. And I have my artillery, once again, I'm picking my shots very carefully because our opponents are trying to go up and around this hill, which is really messing with our line of sight. 2 groups of spearmen, 2 groups of archers, an eagle, and a mage with the Lore of Light. Took perhaps way too many abilities on her. She's not mounted as well, she's very slow. But dwarves are very resistant to magic. Shem's Burning Gaze do some decent damage. Frost Protection to boost. Take a second, you look at Net of Amnitok could be great if they find one of our units out of position. But Banishment, I would think, would be one of the better abilities against blobbed up formations like ours. You see here, I'm switching. I'm trying to get the units that are crawling up this hill. I'm trying to get the ones that are exposed to our Grudge Thrower fire. And this hill has been very good for them. So when my ally and I were choosing to deploy, he kind of wanted me to deploy right here. We almost could. We could have deployed here and then just walked into here and taken this very defensive hill position, which is nice. I don't think units can run up here, though they may be able to. But what it was going to do was block my line of sight on my artillery. So I figured they might line up here, they might line up here and use this ridge, or they would come over here and take the top. So to kind of hedge my bets, I set up in this valley, and my ally was grateful enough to kind of sit up with me. I love the bolt throwers. I love watching them fire. So went a bit heavy on their artillery, but like I said, these guys are just in lieu of archers, which honestly would have been better this game. And something about this hill is really messing me up. Like, I wasn't able to get almost a single shot with my bolt throwers. So eventually I'm going to take them off of fire at will, because I was getting tired of missing all those shots. Also, I think there's another unit somewhere deployed. I think I'm forgetting something. Something was hidden. Was it Illyrian Reavers? Yes, I think there's another unit here. I don't know why I can't see it. Maybe I'm just missing it. Nope, there they are. Illyrian Reavers in the back. They've taken some casualties. Very cheap light infantry, shock cavalry there. Very good at getting your back lines and disturbing your artillery if they're able to do so. So my opponent was very helpful in forming up with me, but they weren't very Johnny on the spot with defending our artillery. They tried their best, but I honestly would have put these beast layers in the back here. What I'm going to do is I'm going to shift my formation. I see what they're doing. They're trying to go up and around this hill, using it as cover, and it's been very effective, especially against the low arc of the bolt throwers. But what I'm going to do is I obviously don't need the miners that I had out on this flank. I'm going to pull them to this side, and we're going to make a bit of an area denial here. Form up our dwarf warriors. We're going to use this to deny this entire flank. If they want to go up and around, they're going to have to really go up and around. And meanwhile, our grudge throwers, 38 and 52 kills, feels pretty good. And we're dumpstering one of these skeleton warriors. They still have tons of unit models. I love playing on Ultra. That's kind of my deal. Alright. Some of these formations are a little wonky. You obviously don't want to leave your guys standing in front of your artillery piece. They can get shot in the back. But I'm going to move them before it becomes relevant. Yeah, there we go. So they get moved. No big deal. And I've got my miners with blasting charges hanging out on the side. And if there comes time to receive a cavalry charge, potentially from these Blood Knights, we have a nice little staggered formation here. We'll be able to throw some satchel charges. Not perfect against cavalry, much better against skeleton warriors and those types of infantry. But beggars can't be choosers. Yeah, a little bit of a disjointed engagement here between the High Elves and the Vampire Counts. Had they been moving up at this point, they might have had a much better chance at cracking our front line. The Fellbats are rushing in, seeking to shut down our artillery piece. Wouldn't be surprised to see them land on one of our grudge throwers. And they're going to land on the one that's further away. Our ally is going to respond with the Beast Slayers, which feels pretty good. And we muck up a charge here with the miners on these Blood Knights. We get off some throwing charges, or some satchel charges I should say. And we're moving in with our Lord also to help beat them down. One of our miners is heading into the front lines to back up our ally in this big melee fight. Stand your ground and foe seeker pop there from Leon Kerr. And we're switching up our bolt throwers. We have some on the Blood Knights, which is why they're actually hurt. Certainly was not from the miners. I think we have one on the Blood Dragon himself. He is a large target. And when a bolt thrower hits a Blood Knight, they'll usually kill a unit model. And we were able to chase off these Fellbats, but they're still waiting in the wings. Our opponents are knocking me off of my artillery pieces, which has been pretty brutal. And now the blasting charges are going to help to take down these skeleton spearmen. A nice rear charge there from the Blood Knights. And that's going to do some damage. War blasting charge. God, I love those. And we're just constantly trying to protect our stuff. One of our dwarf warriors engaged here versus high elf spearmen. Men at arms mixed in, providing a little extra DPS. Love it. And good technique from our ally here, keeping the Grail Relic kind of in this nice pocket. And I saw a vulnerability here from these Illyrian Reavers, and I'm trying to cover it with these dwarf warriors. But they're doing a good job of harassing us, and we need to stay mobile to defend ourselves. We managed to crumble those spearmen, the skeletal spearmen, and these warriors here are getting healed. The blood dragon is in the melee, very close to a damsel. Probably could crush her if he wanted to, but Leon Nankor is in here, and he's just going to be absolutely smiting people. Very good tank, even against the blood dragon vampire lord. He'll just be able to pull out and run away if he wants. A nice wind blast there, very effective against the skeletons. The eagle's up in the air, not really doing much, and eventually I'm going to see him as a great target for our bolt thrower, and we're going to seek to get rid of him. Once again, knocking us off our artillery with these Illyrian Reavers, and then using them to then charge into the peasant mobs and break them. But we're in hot pursuit with our miners, and our allies using the Holy Wardens as well. And we're just using some of our units to screen, but in a moment I think we're going to put our Dwarf Warriors and stick them on these archers. Get them engaged, get them chasing. Grudge Thrower is still firing on these archers, hoping to break them off. Here we go. Yeah, we're choosing our engagements. I think we need to try and take out these Blood Knights. They're receiving an invocation in the heck, but there you go, another bolt thrower fire. Yeah, we're just chunking models left and right. Even those heals aren't saving them, and if they want to engage on this Grudge Thrower, they probably won't be able to shut it down permanently. We just have so many chaff units here able to chase down the vastly superior Blood Knights. Undeath Resurgent going off, as well as a Sword of Corone from King Lewin, and buffs and debuffs all day long. Helm of Discord is a brutal debuff. We look here at the stats, look at something a little more relevant. Yeah, one melee attack on the Beast Slayers of Bastion. Absolutely horrible. And yeah, we're starting to chunk the Great Eagle. He's taking giant bolt thrower rounds to the face. Illyrian Reavers are still very healthy. Blood Knights are hanging on with 20 unit models. And the grudges are being settled here. Giant rocks just coming out of nowhere and smashing them. The archers never got to play much of a role this battle. The princess has been sitting on this hill, a pretty commanding position, firing her bow. To watch her take a shot here. But we don't have a ton of good targets for her to shoot at. We do have a lot of heavily armored units, and a banishment going off from the mage with the Lore of Light. But because the Dawi are very resistant to that, because of the strange, I think that was a poorly timed use of that ability. It mainly, honestly, hit the Spearmen. Our Dwarf Warriors didn't take damage, and the Grail Relic isn't vulnerable to that ability whatsoever. Dwarf Lord going in, receiving a Stand Your Ground. And we're going to chase off this Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, who is still quite the dangerous combatant. And we can see his healing cap now showing. Still has quite a bit of healing left, probably several thousand HP. And the Blood Knights are going down, taking these ballista bolts to the back. Gotta love it. Princess still up here shooting. Yeah, we've only gotten one kill since we saw her last. Not doing her best. The Dwarf Warriors are chasing off this very full archer unit. They have 41 kills already, so they somewhat paid their dues. But if they ever stop to engage the Dwarf Warriors, they're going to have a hard time. And we're reaching the point in the battle where some of our artillery pieces are running out of ammo. So we're going to take them off of their actual pieces and use them in melee. So let's see how many unit models there are. You can't really tell until you pull them off. But I will be doing that in a second, and I'm going to use the empty artillery pieces to protect the ones that still have some ammunition. This bolt thrower still has 2. The eagle has been broken, not shattered, but is definitely a non-factor so far in this engagement. The Illyrian Reavers, all 15 of them, are looking to rally and try and harass us in the back line. But we're going to attach some of our less important units here, and we're forming up in the front. I've made new hot groups at this point, including some of the artillery crews to bolster my front lines, and we're going to look to advance up this hill. Now, something I was expecting our opponents to do was to try and kite us. That would have been very unfun. They still have some of the speed advantages here on the Princess and the Blood Dragon. However, the King Lewin, he is also mounted, so he should be able to catch them at some point if they were to try and kite us. But luckily for us, they weren't doing that. I think they were honestly trying to stay in the game to buy time. Our forces were quite superior. At this point, the Illyrian Reavers were able to come back and cycle charge us a bit. But I mean, here's 17 Grudge Thrower dwarves. very angry. They even look cool, like they could do some damage in melee. How much armor do they have? Only 40 armor.
Mark this day in the book.
But their melee attack and defense stats are actually not bad. Their weapon strength as well for an artillery crew. That's pretty beefy. Yeah, with 38-minute arms, they shouldn't have any problem. And we're also sending 32 bolt thrower crew members over there as well. Some miners. We're probably going to send them at some point. Right now, everyone's kind of charging ahead, trying to keep everyone together with our leadership, because the real fight is taking place here. And King Lewin is getting very brave, I think. We're using some of our grudge thrower crews to hold. Wow, what a swipe. We're trying to hold the Blood Dragon in place, but he just killed like 6 of us in one shot. God, that's brutal. But with the Sword of Corone procced on him, his stats are horrible. Yeah, that was the ability here from the Princess. So pretty much an Arrow of Kronos type effect. Managed to get a couple kills, but they're going to need to engage in melee. Our Dwarf Warriors in the back are nearly catching up to these archers, though I don't think they ever can. What's the speed? 36 and 28. Yeah, they really can't, but as they get close, they're all exhausted. Their speed is all pretty relative. If he ever wants to use them, he's going to have to stop them at some point. And we have the Blood Dragon Knight. He's crumbling. And down he goes. What an ignoble death for such a powerful lord. So it's essentially just the Princess. She's using Foe Seeker to run away. Yeah, I was really hoping it wasn't going to come down to like them trying to kite us with a Princess. Really wanted to win due to army losses, I suppose. So we're breaking off the wizard. The last unit of spearmen is gone. They were kiting us with these reavers, which is kind of lame. They honestly should have just charged in. Bit of bad manners, I think. There's really no chance to win at this point. You can try and consolidate with your Princess, maybe bring up the spearmen and then bring up the Illyrian reavers and have a tiny little force and make your last stand. That's certainly acceptable, but that is just not how the game was shaken out. So appreciate them not draw kiting, but I think honestly the only reason this player did not draw kite us is because we managed to win due to army losses. So our grudge throwers did great. Our bolt throwers played a really great role. Not a lot of kills on some of them, but that's because they were focusing down really high value targets. And honestly, the first maybe like 4 or 5 volleys completely whiffed on all 3 of them. If I could go back and replay that, I would probably hold fire. I just didn't think they would be that inaccurate at that particular range. Our ally did a great job. They filled some of the gaps in our armies with lots of weak chaff and a really powerful King Lewin who was able to go to town and duel some of these lords for us, which is something we desperately needed because our dwarf lord is very good at standing in melee and dealing damage and taking damage, but against a powerful dueler like the Blood Dragon Vampire Lord, he would have certainly gotten crushed. Yeah. Between the helm, between the Heartrender, between those types of armor piercing and stat lowering effects, they can do a lot of damage. And you'll see here the Crypt Ghouls and the Blood Knights ended up getting quite a few kills. And unfortunately the Eagle didn't do much, the Archers didn't do much. Yeah, they just, honestly, if they had engaged together, a bit more cohesive, I think this fight could have gone very different. But luckily for us, we were able to neutralize a lot of units on the battlefield with our artillery, which was always the plan. So guys, thank you so much for watching. I hope you enjoyed this cast. If you haven't subscribed already, please consider doing that. I appreciate every single subscriber that I get. And like the video if you did enjoy it. And leave a comment if you have a suggestion for something I can do better or a way that I can improve my my casting skills. So thank you all so much. Happy New Year to y'all if I don't make another Total War Warhammer 2 video in a while. And yeah, I'll see you soon. Later, guys.